Hello everyone and welcome to this video. Here I am with the RSV Atoll. I've released a couple videos previously, and in the background I've been making changes and updates to make sure it matches up with the latest that the fishing update brings. This includes adding a fish finder that you can see here. This is Zizzo's fish finder. You'll actually find it in the description of the creation if you're interested, and I may do a further video about that. And not only that, I did a bunch of other changes, including to the fishing net system, as well as to the trolling system. When you're sitting in the seat for the fishnet controller, if you turn on this display button, now it says CCTV and fish finder. So if you press 1, it changes the feed of the camera. If you press 2, it turns on the fish finder. So here as well, you can operate the fish finder. And not only that, now you can also steer the boat. So here we are steering the boat, and you can change the throttle of the boat. So I removed the actual trolling motor, so now there is no longer a little motor on the underside. Instead, what there is this. So when you turn this button, you could slightly turn up the throttle, and that actually controls the main propellers. So now you have full kind of control from this seat, including turning when you do want to fish. You have the fish finder and an updated system for the net. Now previously, this looked much different, and granted, this was a clean system. It almost looks like a crab box or one of those kind of crab traps. And how this worked, now granted, this is previously, so you will find here now the trolling motor is different, and the controls here are different as well, and the buttons are different. But pretty much in this previous version, you unlocked that net, you made it go up, and then you press this button to expand it, and it kind of expands into this system. Now this was in my previous video. However, keep in mind, folks, the first attempt is not always the best. So you'll have things like this that were released right after that update came out, and I mean on the day of. The update came out, and luckily that day I was available to make this vehicle and make this creation. But just like in real life, research and development has to happen in order to get the best product. So this worked. However, the net was wasted because of the fixed size, or the fixed width right here. So in this direction we're good. In this direction we have a nice wide net, but look at that. It is truly just sagging down and not doing anything here. So that has to be R&D'd. It takes time. I'm not all-knowing. I didn't have early access to this update, so I did, with the help of Sheppy5, who is the admin on my Discord server, develop this system. Now granted, not nearly as clean as my sort of crab trap style element. Now here there's 5 different bodies added, and they all communicate with each other. So what you'll have is the crane itself, the crane arm, communicates to the winches on here to expand them from this part, or from these parts, which also have other winches on them which expand with the bottom of the net. Now when you spawn this in, I know it doesn't look very clean. Like, it just looks like a jumbled mass of things. You don't really, it doesn't clamp on anything. It sits there. Now again, because we're still in R&D for a lot of this stuff, I'd rather get this creation out to you than purely sit on it until something perfect is out. So I'm happy with this, and it works. A lot of people have been asking, how does it work? And I'll show you. So something neat, you could turn the ignition on, you could sit on this seat, turn this button on, and then you have access to the motors from here. So here we are running the whole trawler from this seat, so you don't have to sit at the main area. You could run it right from here. Now, how does this new net system work, and what does it look like? Well, I'll show you. So you got to activate the crane first, and when the crane is activated, what I always do is I push the crane winch up a little bit like that, so you can see you position it right over top of the net, and then press the up arrow to bring it up. When everything's up, you could then swing the arm out and push everything out. Now, yeah, the ship does list a little bit because obviously it's not, it balances as good as it can, but it still is a mass of weight kind of dangling off the side. Then what I do is I lower the winch, so I press the down arrow. And while I'm doing that, I turn this on, extend net. And while I'm doing that and pressing down, you can see in the water, the thing is growing. So if we just keep watching it, you can see the size of the net is much bigger than what was done previously. Now, because we are dangling off the side here, you could see that it starts to turn the ship. So what I recommend doing then is actually rotating the crane back in general alignment with the trawler, like this. And that's now purely behind us. Now, of course, if you speed up the engine, the net expands a little bigger. It also goes a little higher. So you can see the net is now open and it's able to kind of catch fish. Yeah, it is at a bit of a slant, so I'm going to work on if we can add weight to bring it down or anything like that. It may honestly need a 4-point winch system, something like that is attached to here, and something that's also attached to the bottom one from here and here, from this little kind of connector piece that ensures the net is vertical. So it would in essence have the bottom winches, like the ones that are attached to these portions here, would have to be tighter than what's here. But for now, again, like I said, being short on time and wanting to get out this creation to you guys to use, I'd much rather have it sitting semi-functional, or I'd say mostly functional, rather than not being out at all. So that's my personal preference. I do get a lot of people saying, oh, it doesn't work, it's broken, or how does it work? It's not as nice as the first one. Trust me, this is a much bigger net and a much bigger setup. Now also, 40% throttle is too much. I'd recommend like 15% throttle like this, and then the net is open properly. So in theory, what I could do is I could limit the speed of this trolling motor entirely, because anything over that 15 will not catch you fish. Look at this. At 100% throttle, look how that net looks. Yeah, that's not going to do anything for you. So maybe I do for the update now. Limit the speed to 15% throttle, because that 15 will get you a good amount of kind of net motion. You can see here. Now I did sort of pull it out to the side, but it should settle out fairly soon here. And that is how to use this. So this is an optimized and better system. And like I said, you could steer it from the ship here, from the seat. Or what I recommend doing is actually turning on the autopilot. That's why it's in the center here. And you set yourself like a very detailed course like this. And then once that's enabled, the boat will automatically turn and run its course. So if there are fish in the area, and of course if you press 2 and turn this on, well, there we go. It senses all kinds of fish around us, tells us where they are. Now this display is small. We're kind of limited by the size of the creation, which is fine. If you go over here and turn on this fish finder, you'll see that it's a much bigger fish finder with a much better screen. So yeah, this is supposed to be like a multi-person operation. There we go. We already caught a fish. So that is good. And then as before, this new net functions in exactly the same way, where you just raise it up. And of course this button here, you retract it. And I did fix these to toggle buttons just so it's easier to operate and you don't have to keep holding it. But what you're going to want to do is bring everything in as much as possible, just like this, net and all. And when it's all kind of maximum, or brought in to its maximum part, you then bring it up over top of the hopper as such, and then you release it. And then that fish is now released and it's inside the hopper system. So that is how you get it. Now this is still supposed to be a survey vessel for the fish, which is why that kind of original crab box or crab trap style of net did work, because it wasn't never intended to be a mass collection of fish. However, I do anticipate a lot of the fans and people that downloaded this creation are going to use it in that configuration. So I don't really want to limit its capability. I don't need to make it a small quantity fishing trawler. I'd rather have it as useful and functional as possible, which is sort of why I've done the update I've done. But really, you'll find the net does seem to open up properly by default, naturally. You don't really have to do anything funky with it or wacky. Now, what is that? Oh. There we go. Oh, interesting. There's an animation when it's open. Interesting. I did not know that. But anyway, so now that's closed. You don't want to keep it open, otherwise you'll catch no fish. And you just kind of leave it be. So that is what was done. Again, there is some work I see here, especially when it comes to keeping it open properly, but I'm limited by time. I'm limited by resources. I'm just a one-man shop. I do get Sheppy and some of my other moderators and admins to help me create things, but I do personally vet everything I make. I don't go under the guise of someone else creates something and I just upload it. I never like that. I like to check it and make sure that it is functional and working properly. So that's why it takes me a while, but I think and hope that the quality of my creations are worth it. So regardless, that is what you kind of get when it comes to this update. I will be making other videos as well, talking about the different types of nets. You see, like that one is decently large, I guess, when it comes to a small vessel like this, but it would be nice to get much bigger and better. We are limited here by the size of the deck and where to put it. Yes, if you spawn the creation with the net, you could make a net the size of the whole area. Like if I spawn this in, you'll see just how big it is. So that is huge. However, I want it to be functional for the vessel, and also you only have so much wiggle room in increasing and decreasing the size of the net. So you can't decrease this net size to be small enough to fit on that vessel. You really only have an expansion size of 2.5, so you can't really use this. You'd have to have a super high crane that can deposit fish into the hoppers on a small vessel. But on a large vessel, you can certainly do something like this. Also, you're limited by the size of this for the microcontroller. Here, it's all built into the buoy itself, whereas in other cases, what you have is it's controlled by my vessel, by the ship, so it has to communicate with the winches and stuff. But regardless, the fishing update's out. We got a lot of cool stuff on it. Thank you so much for those that downloaded my creation. I love the fact we're on the home page. That makes me super happy. And not only that, we have over 5,000 subscribers. But you could see these old style nets here. Unfortunately, I'm not going to redo the photos. It takes way too much time and effort. The point is there. It's not a major retrofit. It's just a different type of net. So this is what you get. Obviously, these photos too have a different configuration with the fish finder, but the fish finder now is on the description here. So if you're interested, this is the fish finder I'm using. It's a great fish finder. Came out really fast after the update, which is unreal, and it seems to work wonders. And here you just see how big this net is that Sheppy 5 developed in comparison with the small trawler. Really, you have nowhere to put something this size. You need a large ship, and truthfully, I probably will not make one soon that's that size, just because it still works under the guise of OMA, or under the organization OMA, who is a research company, so they do research type stuff. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for more content. Stay tuned for more creations. We got a bunch of train things out now, which I'll explain in a different video. And as always, happy Stormworksing, everyone.